Everybody, what is going on? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby. Hope you guys are having a good morning or night wherever you are watching in from. Looking forward to, just wanted to hop in today and talk a little bit about, for me it's Saturday morning right now, so I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what's happening this weekend, what's happened, have a little bit of a recap of what's gone on in the past week or so, to chat a little bit about some of the market movements, see where I think some things might be happening at this point in time in the near future here. So that's kind of what I wanted to discuss today. What up, T Boogie? What's up, Michael? Crypto, Simon, brother, what up, man? Aaron, Kegs and Eggs. It is not Kegs and Eggs for me yet. Did have a nice little coffee so far, but I'm actually heading to Atlantic City tonight to gamble on the craps table, so why not? Yeah, Saturday night at 11 p.m. in Sydney. Thanks for dialing in. Hope you guys are having a good one. Joe Mar, what's up, my man? First of all, guys, appreciate the time, and just wanted to, like I said, talk a little bit about kind of what's happening in the world of crypto this week, what's going on this weekend, and answer your questions here to check out really what's happening. So as far as everything goes, for the most part this week, it was, I would say, pretty, actually I forgot to load in Coinigy, so give me a second here, but pretty interesting week for the most part from the perspective of crypto. When we're looking at a lot of what's gone on, it has been, in my opinion, pretty slow and steady. And even though there's a little bit of negative news coming from Korea or South Korea in regards to ICOs, the market cap took a little bit of a hit, going from, at least from Bitcoin's perspective, going up in the mid 4,200s back down to the mid 4,050, 4,075. And now we've already pretty much fully recovered from that South Korea ICO news, which has been pretty cool to see. I don't know if there's more to that or not, so we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. But it'll be, in my opinion, I think it's something, like I said yesterday, it's definitely something you want to be aware of and you want to watch as much as possible, just in case that South Korea news turns out to be somewhat negative in the long run. But right now, it looks like the market's pretty much shook it off, didn't really care too much, and we're back to normal. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on as well. And guys, if you have questions as well, I would love to kick things off with just your thoughts as far as what you're thinking about, or any questions that you might have. If it's a specific cryptocurrency today, I'd love to hear it too. So let me know in the questions. And again, everybody, thanks for taking the time to join. Appreciate that. And guys, if you are new to the channel by any chance, hit that subscribe button if you are new, and throw a like in there if you've been here for a while, just to help get this out to as many people as possible. I always appreciate that from you guys. So Setrock mentioned I'm 80% in Tether right now, waiting for a good buy-in point. And somebody else mentioned, really hope it goes back to 3,600 so I could buy in. As of now, I think, who knows? Because we were around $3,600 earlier this week. Do I think that it's a possibility that we could go back down there? Yeah, with a little bit of negative news or with a sell-off, I think that's definitely possible. For right now, there was a little bit of time really within the past month that the market was pretty damn, I don't want to say like super, super bearish, but I thought it was from really the start of September, when Bitcoin had an $80 million market cap, kind of all the way down to when it was at below around a $50 billion, I'm saying billion billion-dollar market cap there, and has since had I would say, pretty steady move back up, which has been nice to see as well. So are we going to get back to that $3,600 mark for Bitcoin? If you put an order there, if you're patient, it's probably going to fill at one point or another. Whether there's some type of fear-driven crash or something like that, you put an order there, it'll probably fill. Will it be this week? Maybe, maybe not. Will it be a month from now or 2 months from now? Maybe, maybe not. But you just put those orders down there, and you'll be good to go. So somebody mentioned, what is the best Tether wallet? So I use Tether on very short-term trades, I would say. There's some like rumors about Tether. Like if you search in like, is Tether a fraud? There are some things that some people say it's a scam. Some people say it's not a scam. Is Tether a scam? There's some things basically about the liquidity of Tether. Is it actually trustworthy? So if you're going to use Tether, I wouldn't recommend it for long-term holding. I would just recommend it for like short-term in and out type things. If you have your money in Bittrex and you don't want to move it out of Bittrex, something like that. So I would just be careful when it comes to Tether and do your research too, because if you're keeping your money, one day, quite frankly, some people are saying one day, quite frankly, Tether could go poof. So you want to be aware of that, and you want to be careful of that possibility, because it isn't as far as Tether goes. Sorry, I was just banning somebody. It isn't really backed by anything. It's really not backed by the US dollar. It's just tied to the value of the US dollar. So you just want to be aware of that and make sure that you have that kind of under control, and don't keep your money in there long term. It may or may not be a good store of value. So I would just say that as far as Tether goes. So a couple different people have mentioned some things. So I'm taking a look at that. Colin Walsh mentioned Neo and XVG as the big winners for October. I'm still somewhat hesitant on Neo. It's had a really nice rebound, obviously. If you got in when Neo was $13, good on you. That was a hell of a move. It's up to 31 now. Still, for me personally, when I got in on Neo, I got in around $6. So back here in this range, back in like mid-June, I got in on Neo. Actually, about mid-July, and then I sold after it peaked. I sold around $38 or so. Hold on, let's see. So I sold around $8. Thick boy, shut the fuck up. You're a pain in my ass. But outside of that, looking at Neo, I mean, it's had a really heavy move in the past week or so. So will it continue to sustain that? I don't know. Could it be due for a pullback? I think it's definitely possible. So we'll have to see how that goes from Neo's perspective. I don't know if that's going to be the crypto for the month of October. It's always tough to call that and see kind of where things go there. Thank you for the super chat, my man. I appreciate that. What do I think about BQX for a long-term investment? So I'll pull up Bitcoin's here. We'll take a look at it. Somewhat smaller crypto for the most part. Sub $50 million market cap, and it's had a little bit of a move down since August. So as far as Jesus Christ, dude. So as far as Bitcoin goes, take a look at kind of everything here. I would say, I mean, from my perspective, I need to do a little bit more research, quite frankly, on Bitcoins from the perspective of really what it's bringing to the table, and if a token is really necessary in a lot of respects. So, they're in their view, or what they're looking to do, you can kind of see here, they're trying to democratize ownership of cryptocurrencies and make that happen. So with that being said, how are they going to do that? They have a universal wallet. They have one-click diversification. There's a lot of companies that are trying to do that. There's a lot of companies that are trying to do that. So with that being said, how are they going to be able to manage that? I don't know. Are they uniquely positioned? I haven't done a ton of research. I can definitely get back to you all on as far as whether or not they are really legit, because even from the perspective, and somebody else asked about Black Moon. So Black Moon is in some cases doing some some interesting work with Black Moon is doing interesting work in this space. Melonport is doing interesting work. Economy is doing some work there as well, as far as not necessarily from a portfolio or really portfolio management and diversification perspective. So that's kind of what they're doing, and that's how they're approaching things. So it'll be interesting to see if Bitcoins. I don't know if any of you guys use at least in the U.S., I use Betterment and Wealthfront, which are two different ways you can go and diversify really easily, and it has a beautiful dashboard. It's really nice, really easy to utilize. So I think Bitcoins is trying to do that in some respects, as far as allowing you to easily diversify your assets. But the one thing I'll say too is, and I've been having conversations. I've been going to a lot of meetups, and I've been meeting a lot of people in Manhattan. And one of the things, I'll get to Bitconnect in a second, Ardell. One of the things that I think is interesting is people are getting ICO fatigue. In my mind, in my opinion, people are getting ICO fatigue. And if you don't have a specific reason for your token, like you can have, Christopher Dowling, I use Acorns as well. Pretty cool software for sure. And with that being said, if your company doesn't really need a token, there are a lot of cryptos out there that have tokens. They have these utility tokens. Like Bitcoin sounds like a really sweet idea, and it sounds great, but could it just get by as a company without needing a token? I mean, what's the utility of it? So that's what I want to do a little bit more research on for sure, just to make sure that like the actual token itself is some, because this looks like a nice app. I would like to use that potentially in the future if it goes on. So we'll take a look at that. But when you're talking about any ICOs in general, you want to make sure that there's really a utility behind the token, because so many of these companies are just coming out and using ICOs as a way to get money. But if people aren't using the token, the value of that token over time is just going to go down if people get tired of speculative investing on it. So that's my opinion. Somebody mentioned, where's my beer? Right now it's a water, unfortunately, because it's 9:14 a.m. So there we go. Joe Mar mentioned we should have a meetup in the future. I've thought about it, man. I'm in the city, or I'm in New York City, so I've thought about doing some type of meetup there, and going through these questions as much as possible. And like Alt did, guys, if you have something that you absolutely must have answered, I try to get to as many of them as possible. But throw a super chat in, and I'll definitely get to it if you really, really want it to be answered. So a couple different people have mentioned Bitconnect. I am not in on Bitconnect. I think it's looks to me a little bit like a Ponzi scheme. Maybe you think so, maybe you don't. But there are a lot of YouTubers pitching Bitconnect, and it's because they get referral fees, and it's because they make money off you. That type of stuff makes me sick. That type of stuff I am not interested in. I don't want to participate in. Honestly, I think if you see somebody pitching Bitconnect, just disregard everything else they say, because if that's the only way that you can make money or do anything in the space, then and that's sad. And you don't want to be the person at the bottom when the whole Bitconnect pyramid collapses. You see this in 13th. It's in the 13th position. It's close to $1 billion in market cap. I still wouldn't touch Bitconnect with a 10-foot fucking pole. So excuse the language, but I wouldn't do that. I don't know. Take whatever risks you want, because crypto is inherently risky in and of itself. But the last thing I need is to have it just be a general freaking pyramid scheme. So I'll pass on that for sure. Taking a look at these questions here as well. Civic price target for me. So I am participating in the Civic ICO. I'm a Civic holder. Price target wise, I think it's close to, let's say, close to 40 cents right now or so. I'll scroll down. Right on 40 cents. I think Civic is one of those one of the utility tokens, and I think, quite frankly, like there's you could probably debate a little bit whether or not it even needs a token, but it's probably one of the more legit companies in the crypto space, and they're getting really good partnerships where they're getting really good partnerships to the point where I think that they're going to Civic is going to continue to grow. Vinny Lingham is a big name in the space, which helps a lot. And I just think overall they're kind of becoming ID platform for ICOs and for the cryptocurrency space, and that's something that if they can do that, that'll be really, that'll be really solid. So I'm bullish on Civic long term, which is why I've continued to hold through the ICO and after the ICO. So that's my thought process there. A couple different people mentioned, Atif mentioned Black Moon price targets. So I'm still holding some Black Moon from the ICO. Hasn't done super well since the ICO, unfortunately. I think one of the things that's nice is they do have a reserve to buy back Black Moon crypto in the future at 80% of its value, which is kind of where it's trading at right now. So it's down a bit since the ICO, but a lot of ICOs have gotten hit pretty hard. One ICO that's done really well, I made a move on it. I made a nice little trade on it, although it was too soon, actually. But Chainlink, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed this. I didn't get in on the ICO, but I snagged some on Ether Delta back when it was around, let's say, 19 cents, and I sold it when it was up at about, let's say 26 cents. So I sold it for a nice gain, 19 cents to 26 cents, not bad. And as soon as I sold it, it shot through the roof again. So that is... I would check out Chainlink. I don't have any right now. I sold, and I'm kind of waiting for a little bit of a pullback, and I'm kicking myself for selling. But then again, profit's profit, and I always tell you guys profit's profit. And you want to take profit when you can. I took profit. I was happy with it, and then I watched it just go up and go up and go up. Too damn bad, right? But Chainlink is a really interesting crypto. I think right now I believe it's pretty much just trading on Binance and Ether Delta. I've actually never used Binance before, but I've used Ether Delta. It's a pretty complex technology. Like if you read the white paper, it's no joke from the point of it's really no joke as far as like the technicals behind it. You got to be pretty in tune with the space to understand what this Oracle network is and the purpose for it. But from a lot of people that are much smarter in the space than me, I've heard some excellent things about Chainlink and their kind of smart contracts. So that's been good to see as far as how they can perform as well. Yeah, and somebody else mentioned, Atif mentioned WTC Walton Chain, which has really had a pretty good run. And I know back in early September, a lot of you guys were reaching out to me, even when we had these crypto happy hours, these crypto lives. A lot of people are asking. It's down a little bit right now, but for the most part, I mean, it's still up pretty massive. I didn't participate in Walton Coin at all, quite frankly. It's again, Walton Coin is traded on Binance and Ether Delta, but Walton Coin had a nice little run pretty much after the ICO and then cooled off a little bit. And it's primarily a Chinese company for the most part, or Asian company. It's working the RFID space, which is actually something I do during my day job and kind of dealing with companies and helping them put in RFID systems in their manufacturing warehouses, wholesale distribution centers, blah, blah, blah. But it was tough for me to do a lot of analysis on Walton, and I was a little bit turned off on just a lot of the negative China news. So that was kind of my thought process there was I just wasn't able to fully research it, and a lot of people were mentioning it, and it spiked through the roof. And I think this looks a little bit like an unhealthy spike here. So I mean, if you got in early, it's probably not a terrible time to take profits. Even if it's a great long-term hold, it looks like it's getting ready to to come back down to $4, $3 maybe. Who knows? But that's when I've been looking at these charts, that's kind of the view that I look there as well. So a lot of people are asking about different thoughts on ICOs. I'm not always able to evaluate every single ICO by any stretch because there's so freaking many of them. So not everybody, like Render Token, quite frankly, I don't know. Change ICO, I don't know. Electronium, I don't know too well. CryptoSpark, Walton looks like a pump right now. It definitely damn does, man. Definitely does. Which is why I'm saying it looks like it's about to fall off a cliff too. But so what's the view on BTC Gold? So BTC Gold is, if I'm not mistaken, it's another hard fork on the Bitcoin network. It's basically going to be the same type of scenario that Bitcoin Cash was, where if you have Bitcoin in a wallet, then you get depending upon the number, it might be like, somebody knows in the comment section, please feel free to sound off. But I thought this could be completely off, but I thought it was like for every, I don't even know. So I'm not even going to say it. But basically, if you have Bitcoin, you can get some level of Bitcoin Gold on a certain date. I don't know the exact, I haven't done a ton of research so far on the exact reason for it and why they're doing it, but it's who knows, maybe it's an opportunity to get some more free shit, because that's what happened with Bitcoin Cash. If you had Bitcoin, if you had it in a wallet that actually would allow you to get Bitcoin Cash, then you could, you basically just got free money, which is pretty cool. So somebody mentioned Render. It's legit, serious cloud rendering company. One thing that I think is interesting too, and I've from what I'm gathering from a lot of different people, one of the concept of like decentralized, the concept of decentralized computing and a lot of that type of thing is still very, very early on, and the cost of using something like, whether you're just using something like Amazon Web Services or something that's a lot more specialized, rather than using some type of like decentralized platform built on Ethereum or something else. Like, there's so much more computing power, and it's so much cheaper to actually do it on Amazon Web Services right now. That's not to say it won't be in the future, but I would definitely, as far as like, when you're looking at something like Coin and some of those types of cryptos, where it seems like a great idea in theory, but I think we're still a little bit far off until we really hit scalability to bring that down, especially if it's on the Ethereum network. I'm really excited to see how Ethereum is going to do with Metropolis and a lot of those things. So Mark just mentioned that. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm excited to see how ETH's going to do from within the next month. I made a video, I think it was earlier this week, where I talked a little bit about why I thought that Ethereum might outperform Bitcoin in the near future here. Let me just see if I could pull up Coinigy here real quick. Give me 1 second so I can just freaking pop in this shit. So I'll pull up the actual USD to ETH to BTC here, which is what we're looking at when you're considering Ethereum potentially outperforming Bitcoin, which I think is essentially Martin. What's up from NYC, brother? Which I think when you're looking at, so a couple different things, Ethereum and anything else. If you're looking at any cryptocurrency, there's basically Bitcoin, and in some cases Ethereum, but there's basically Bitcoin and there's kind of everything else. And the thing is, in my opinion, if you're in cryptocurrency, you want to, you want to make money, right? You want to invest in things you're passionate about, whatever. You want to make money. However, when it comes down to it, when you're looking at this type of, information, you want to see if you can. You shouldn't put your money basically in these altcoins or in Ethereum or really anything else unless you think it can outperform Bitcoin. And that's what you want to look at is can Ethereum, unless you're just doing it from a pure technical perspective, or from a pure, you enjoy the technology and you really want to support it and things like that. But for the most part, you want to either put your money in Bitcoin because you think it's going to lead the pack over everything else, and then you want to sparingly put your money in these different altcoins, things like that, so that you can, over time, either get more Bitcoin, get more Ethereum, whatever the goal is, turn it back into US dollars or into euros or whatever your currency is, and make money that way. So when you are looking at that, you want to see can what I'm buying outperform Bitcoin, or is my money just basically better off in Bitcoin? And I think with Metropolis, Now, if we're looking, I'll pull up the 1-day charts here to look. So basically, Ethereum had an incredible run where it went from being worth whatever it was, sub $10 all the way up to at one point in time $400 in mid-June. You can see that. So this is Ethereum trading its BTC, and if you're looking at straight up BTC here, there was a point in time where Ethereum was actually worth, one Ethereum was worth 0.15 Bitcoin. Now it's actually down to 0.07, so less than half of what it was at that peak. When you are looking at that type of, less than half of what you were looking at when it came to the peak of when Ethereum was worth about $400 in mid-June and Bitcoin was somewhere in the 2000s. So Bitcoin is shot up since June. Obviously, it's over $4,000, and Ethereum has had some pitfalls and hasn't really recovered to this full-time highs and hasn't passed those full-time highs since June. The big question, I think, is can Ethereum go past those all-time highs when you are looking at, when we're looking at a lot of, so we'll pull up the actual USD charts here. You can see some of the places I made some quick flips and some quick trades there, but can Ethereum get back to, really the all-time high was around $400 or so. Can Ethereum get back to that point in time? I feel pretty bullish that it can. I feel pretty bullish that it can. And I think that in a lot of cases, Ethereum needs to prove itself as a technology. So Manchester Rick, what's going on, my man? But I do think that Ethereum needs to kind of reprove itself as a technology. And what I mean by that is Ethereum has, besides Bitcoin, Ethereum obviously has the biggest adoption. It has, I would say, the most utility out of any cryptocurrency with so many, that and Bitcoin really has the most utility out of any cryptocurrency. There's so many ICOs being run on it. There's so many smart contracts being developed on Ethereum. There's companies that are basically built on the Ethereum platform. There's just a lot of network effect within ETH right now. And when I'm looking at things though on Metropolis and things of that nature, I think that if Ethereum can prove that it can really truly scale, people trade on the technology with Ethereum more than they do on with Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, in my opinion, Bitcoin is like the store of value, really kind of like a store of value. Bitcoin, in my opinion, kind of how I think about Bitcoin is digital gold. It is digital damn gold. It's it's for somebody like me who's in their mid to late 20s and people in their early 30s, people in their young 20s who and getting well beyond that as well. But for the quote unquote younger generation or whatever you want to call it, I'm never gonna buy gold. I just don't give a shit. I'll buy stocks, but I'm never gonna buy gold. So I'm never gonna buy gold, and I'm never gonna do that. But I'll buy Bitcoin because it's just more interesting to me. There's more of a, I don't know. It's a more interesting store of value for me. It's a little bit more volatile. It's more enjoyable. I'm never going to touch gold. I'm never really going to touch the code of Bitcoin, but that's that. Ethereum, on the other hand, though, it doesn't trade as a store of value as much as I feel like it trades on the effectiveness of the platform. So that's kind of my thought process there. A couple people talking about don't you dare besmirch the good name of Vitalik there. Just taking a second to read these questions. And guys, so too, I actually I just snagged a new camera on from Best Buy. So I'm going to pick that up in a little bit. I'm excited about that because not only will I have in the bottom right, it'll actually be much better. I'm using a little Logitech webcam. I got a big ass DSLR camera so that I can, number one, shoot just regular videos with that and also just make it better. And I'm also trying to do at some point in time a green screen behind me so that I can have that and then I can just be transparent and have the screen take up a lot more space. So I'm trying to improve these videos as much as possible from a technical standpoint, just get some better equipment. Now that the channel's kind of picked up to over 16,000 subscribers or something crazy. So I appreciate all you guys who watch every one of these videos and always join me. And just so you guys know, I'm trying to make this channel as good as possible from a content perspective, from a visual perspective, technically speaking. I'm trying to learn as much as possible. So I appreciate all you guys, all you guys helping out there as well, for sure. So heading over to Best Buy later, and I'm pumped up to see that, pumped to pick that. So I'm probably gonna make another video, not a live video, but another video this afternoon, before I head down to Atlantic City to play craps, because why the fuck not? But I'm probably gonna make another video later on with that new camera, just because I'm super jacked up about it. But yeah, why not? You only got one life to live. Let's make it roll. So outside of that, I know we covered a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, and some other cryptos. If you guys have some specific questions on, the actual, on some other cryptos that you're thinking about that I can answer as well. So thoughts on Ripple? I'll talk about Ripple a little bit there for sure. So Ripple's interesting, and OMG is another one. Come to Philly. I actually almost went to Philly this weekend, Setrock. I got a buddy who lives in Philly. I almost went to Philly. So I'll talk about OMG, and I will talk about Nintron. I don't know too much about Electronium, unfortunately, so I really can't add a lot of value there. But I'll give my thoughts on Ripple that I've given thoughts on Ripple before. I'll definitely give them again. But Ripple, OMG, so I'll talk about those two. For me personally, when I'm looking at Ripple, XRP. So Ripple it's an interesting cryptocurrency, and it's really not, in a lot of cases, a cryptocurrency in the purposes of it's a very heavily centralized, it's a centralized company. So, Ripple is a company that owns Ripple, basically, and they are in charge of the distribution of it and things of that nature. One thing that's interesting, and I would definitely recommend, so if you've never checked this out before, but let's see, Ripple R3. So this is pretty cool, or not pretty cool. I mean, it sucks if you it sucks if you're, I guess, R3. But so R3 is a company that's headquartered in New York City, I believe. I have a buddy that has worked with R3. And then Ripple Labs is out in, I believe, Silicon Valley, San Francisco. But if you guys aren't familiar, Ripple apparently offered, you can see here, there was an agreement from almost exactly a year ago where Ripple gave, if you guys are familiar with stock options, hopefully you are, if not, just Google it. But if you're familiar with stock options, it's basically an option to purchase stock at a specific price point. Ripple gave R3, which is a blockchain company, Ripple gave R3 the option to buy 5 billion Ripples, XRPs, for less than 1 cent per Ripple or per XRP. Those Ripples those XRPs are now worth 20 cents. So if you do the math, let's see here. What's that? Let's say 5 billion times 20. Oh, we got 20 cents or so. Is now worth $1 billion. So what was supposed to cost them initially was, 5 billion. Ripple at 0.0085. So basically, they got offered to buy $42 million worth of Ripple. That's now worth $1 billion. So they'd make $950 million in profit from this. And now Ripple is coming back and saying that they're terminating those, that they're not allowing them to buy those Ripples. So they're not giving them basically $950 million is what R3 is suing for, plus some, I'm sure, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Pretty damn crazy. But Ripple is just a very centralized cryptocurrency, and the goal of Ripple is to work with the big banks. So, I mean, I don't know if necessarily Ripple's obviously done well in the past. I mean, if you look, let's see. Actually, that's not doesn't go back too far. It only goes back to July. Their big run was in the May timeframe, really. But when you look at Ripple, I think a lot of these big banks, whether it's everybody's favorite JP Morgan, or if it's Goldman Sachs, or if it's Morgan Stanley, or whoever, they're going to leverage blockchain technology. I think they're going to build their own internal blockchain technology. A lot of these, big financial institutions, they have their own proprietary technology. I know people that work at Goldman. I know people that work at, being in New York, I know people that work at a lot of these big banks, and a lot of them have their own proprietary internal technology. So I don't know if Ripple is going to become that settlement layer for the big banks. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. So looking at these questions, Red Pulse, I knew a lot. Red Pulse was a lot of people were really excited about Red Pulse, and the whole China thing went down. So I don't know where Red Pulse really stands right now, quite frankly. But yeah, I don't even know, because from an ICO perspective or where that might be. Another thought process or another question there was OMG. So we'll take a look at OMG here. Another one, so OMG is another one of my long-term holds. Personally, I got in at around $1, between $1 and $2, so back in early August. That's obviously been, good so far. I have some buddies that got into OMG on this nice drop when it was down to 7 in the sevens or so. I think OMG is one of the better, in my opinion, one of the better cryptocurrencies. Or better, not cryptocurrencies, not really cryptocurrency, one of the better utility tokens. It has a lot of venture backing, which I like to see. It's gaining partnerships. I think McDonald's in Thailand is one. If they can become a Stripe type payment processor on the blockchain, that's going to be massive. Having that kind of base out of Asia, I think, is big too, just because Asia's I think has a little bit more of an appetite to make those moves into cryptocurrency and to transact with cryptocurrencies rather than the US and rather than some other places. So I am still holding OMG. I'm still bullish on OMG. I've liked the fact, granted, it hasn't done super well since September, but for the most part, it hasn't fallen off a cliff either. So I've liked that it's held up. I think if some more, good news comes out or something like that, then OMG will make a nice move upwards, and maybe that might be a time in which I take a little bit of profits, but we will see. So looking at some more questions here, somebody mentioned, am I holding any Steam? So I am. If you haven't followed me, I'm on. If you have a Steemit profile, shoot me a follow on Steam. I basically repost my videos there, and have some comments with some people here and there. As far as what I'm thinking, Steemit is somewhat interesting of a platform. I don't invest in Steam for returns per se. I don't think, in my opinion, Steemit it's a cool platform. It's a cool way to to make some money or to gain some cryptocurrency by posting, by commenting, by things like that. But as far as Steemit goes, I don't think it's like, I wouldn't put money in Steam expecting it to go up. It's a valuable, it's a top 20 cryptocurrency. It does pretty well, but for the most part, if I get Steemit or if I get Steam dollars, I'll either turn them into Steam power, just so I have like more power on the network, or I'll just turn them into Bitcoin or Ethereum. So interesting platform, but as far as buying Steam just to buy it because you think it's going to go up, like there's a couple guys on Steemit that are super big. Basically, they're putting their entire reputation behind Steam, which is something that is, I don't know. You do you, but as far as saying, there are people that are saying Steemit's going to be worth $10. Like, no offense, but I think you're full of shit. If you say Steemit's going to be worth $3.5 billion, like it's a beta version of Reddit with not as good of a user base, and Reddit's not worth $3 billion. So I don't know. I don't think Steemit's going to be worth $10 any point in the near future. And the people that I think are telling you to think that, I don't want to name any names, but it doesn't seem like a bad person, but I don't think Steam is something that, you know, you really want to buy as, at least in my opinion, like some long-term investment. I think it's a cool platform, cool idea. I like using it, but that's my thoughts there. So Zan mentioned any ICOs that I am looking at right now. So I can actually, I'm going to pull up one of my, so pulling up a couple different things from an upcoming ICO perspective. So AirSwap is one from Consensus. That's one I'm looking at. Engine Coin is another one that I'll be, you know, be participating in. I think that comes out in 3 days. So Engine Coin, I think they're actually advertising at the top. Yeah, I did a video on Engine Coin. I think it's an interesting cryptocurrency in regards to kind of gaming and how they can leverage. They have an existing distribution. They basically have an existing distribution source for gaming. Samuel mentioned Webcoin. Dude, I wouldn't, you know, if you guys know on this channel, I try to be as absolutely no bullshit honest with you guys as freaking humanly possible. And I get reached out on it. I get reached out all the time from companies regarding doing sponsored videos on YouTube. I've done 2 of them so far. Black Moon was one, Engine Coin was the other. Black Moon has not done incredibly well since they hit the market. It's still retained, I would say, the vast majority. It's, you know, it's down like 15-20%, which sucks, but the entire market has been a little bit down since it went, or at least Ethereum is down since the ICO, so that hurt. But if a company reaches out to me, I'm only going to be interested in accepting it if I'm confident enough in the token moving forward. However, somebody mentioned Webcoin. Dude, Webcoin offered $20,000 to make a positive review of their YouTube channel. $20,000. And I like, why would they do that unless shit is crazy? So I don't know. I could be $20,000 richer right now, but that is absolutely not worth my reputation. I don't know if Webcoin is a scam, but that's a little bit off, you know, from an email. It's just kind of crazy off the bat. I mean, they emailed me, so I didn't sign a non-disclosure or anything. But yeah, they offered myself. I know Jackson Palmer, the founder of Dogecoin, who has a YouTube channel as well. They sent him the same email. So they're basically going around. If you are seeing positive reviews of Webcoin, it's because that person got paid 20 grand in their tokens to do that. And if I've like I said, with Black Moon and with Engine Coin, you know, I'm definitely upfront and honest. I'll tell you where the flaws are. I'll tell you where the areas of potential improvement are. And if I ever do get compensated from somebody, it's not just going to be a glowing bullshit review, because not everything is glowing. So if anybody does that, and also if I ever do a review, or if anybody else ever does that, it's actually illegal if you don't disclose that you've taken compensation for it. So if somebody puts up a review and it's positive and it's all fantastic, that's actually not even legal. You have to disclose prominently, like within the first minute. You can't just put like a little exclamation point somewhere at the end and be like, "Hey, I got paid 20 grand." So just be careful when when people are. Take everything with a grain of salt. It's crypto. Take everything with a damn grain of salt, because everybody has their own agenda. I try to be as upfront, as honest, as fair as possible, because this market is freaking out of. It's crazy, but yeah. So I'm going through these questions now. Sorry for getting on my soapbox about that, but just be careful when it comes to some of these ICOs and some of the people pumping them, because there's a reason they're pumping them, and it's not because it's a good ICO. It's because some of the really desperate companies out there are paying you a freaking fortune, which is crazy. But so Shalom mentioned, has anybody seen the Kin token 10 trillion supply? Oh my. So Kin had their ICO. I got ripped pretty good by a lot of people who were participated in the Kin ICO. This is, I think, and right now it's down about 7%. You know, I'll say this as far as ICOs go right now, and I'm probably going to make a video on ICOs, and I think there's still a good opportunity for ICOs, but there is a closing window when it comes to making money on ICOs, and you have to be extremely, extremely selective when it comes down to that, because there are so many ICOs, there's so much room there. I mean, there's so much noise, there's so much BS, and some companies are, in my opinion, getting greedy when it comes to an ICO. So let's talk about this. Kin by Kick, legit company. They've been around for a while. They have over $100 million in. They have over $100 million in funding, and from their platform. However, they're, according to some App Store data, their platform they have many millions of. They have, I think, like over 5 million monthly active users. They have a pretty big platform, but the overall usage of the platform, it's decreasing in popularity because there's so much competition, whether it's Facebook or Snapchat or WeChat or whatever it might be. But basically, they're tokenizing. They're adding a level of transactions and token basically tokenability to Kin. They raised $50 million from institutional investors. So they raised, if you guys aren't familiar, there's a couple big name, or they are now big name VC type companies in cryptocurrency. So Pantera Capital, Blockchain Capital, and Polychain Capital are a big, kind of a big deal. They invested $50 million into Kin within the pre-sale. So they raised $50 million, and then they were trying to raise $75 million from people like me and you on top of that. So $125 million, and that was for 10% of the overall supply of Kin, which I think is 10 trillion Kin. So $125 million for, the math might not be exactly right, so correct. Sorry about that, but and Paulie, I'll definitely get to your question there for sure. Appreciate it. RIP Paulie Walnuts. But I'll get to your questions there. So I appreciate that super chat. Absolutely, my man. But they went to raise $125 million at a over billion. I mean, a really, really, basically a massive valuation. They went to raise that $125 million. So now that they weren't able to raise all $125 million, the market cap has taken a hit since then, and I think it just goes to show that there is not as big of an appetite now for these massive raises like a lot of these other cryptos that you may have seen in the past. If somebody wants to come out and raise $125 million, great, more power to you. But there might not be $125 million worth of ETH that actually wants to buy your shit. So that's one thing you want to know. And Kin's gotten hammered because of that. So what are my thoughts on EDG or Edgeless? I'll take a look at EDG. Pull that up. So $68 million market cap, not massive by any stretch, but still not not tiny. As far as Edgeless goes, I am not massively familiar with with Edgeless. I think gaming is one of the interesting space. Gaming is absolutely one of the interesting spaces within crypto. Hold on one second. I'm about to sneeze. If I sneeze, I'm going to throw this on mute. But casinos, gaming, coming from me, who's going to go to Atlantic City tonight. But casinos, gaming, I think that's really one of the interesting ways that crypto can be utilized and leveraged. I know there's whether it's Edgeless, whether it's Funfair. Funfair's had a big day. Actually, they, I think, announced that they were going to burn a bunch of their cryptocurrency, which typically leads to like a market spike. So their Funfair is another one. You have Etherroll is another one. But the smart contract idea, integrating that with the casino, if they can actually make the casino work and have sports betting and blackjack and dice and poker and all that, and it really gains adoption, that's a fantastic use case in my opinion. They need to get an SSL license here, because if you want my money, you better have a secure connection. Even freaking Crypto Bobby has a even Crypto Bobby has a secure connection. So Edge, let's hop on that and get a damn secure connection, get some HTTPS there. But outside of that, I haven't done a ton of research there. I don't know if the crowd sale is, I think the crowd sale already occurred, obviously. But yeah, definitely gambling is interesting on blockchain because it obviously has some, the smart contracts essentially allow you to not have to get your knee taken out by your bookie if you don't want to pay, and then your bookie doesn't have to go and kick your ass. So it kind of gets rid of that. So we'll see what happens there. Somebody mentioned, what do I think about Kyber network? So we can pull up Kyber. It is a top 30 crypto pretty much after its ICO. Had a crazy big spike after the ICO. I quite frankly, I don't remember the actual price that it. I don't remember the actual price that Kyber ICO'd at. I believe there was. I don't know if U.S. citizens weren't allowed to participate or if it was simply there was a white sale there, a white list that I didn't get to participate in, but I didn't get to participate into the Kyber ICO. It is one of a lot of people are considering Kyber to be one of the potential leaders in the decentralized exchange. And I listened to a podcast that I really enjoyed from the founder of Kyber. Really interesting dude. The concept of how they're structuring it is, it's a little bit different than, it's actually very different than something like EtherDelta. So if I pull up EtherDelta here, EtherDelta is really one of the only decentralized exchanges that actually freaking works for the most part. Granted, it's a pain in the ass to use, and I could buy KNC right here. I can buy Kyber Network right here. But, if I can log in, use EtherDelta pretty easily. But the way in which it works is, you can see it takes a really long time to load because it basically has to load up pretty much the Ethereum network, and it's very intensive from a computing and from a block perspective. However, on the other end of the spectrum, Kyber Network is interesting because they have a layer of the way in which it's trustless and secure. A lot of they have a system essentially called the reserves, and they have people that are the ones providing the kind of liquidity to the exchange, and they're providing the reserve of tokens, and it allows you to get instant trades, and then these people that provide the tokens basically make money on. You don't have to wait for, like with EtherDelta, you have to wait for the network to confirm, and you have to wait whether it's 10 minutes or whatever it might be for those confirmations. So it's not instant transactions by any stretch, and it makes it, in some cases, if you're like a big time trader, makes it a little bit tough. The thought process behind Kyber Network is these reserves, basically, it's whales, companies, whatever, that are going to serve as reserves for these tokens, are going to allow you to instantaneously get your tokens. The users, basically the people that are taking on the risk within the Kyber network, is the reserve and not the actual end users. So the end users don't really have to take on much of a risk. It's more of the reserves who are the people that are taking on any type of risk. But Kyber Network is really not necessarily available yet to use and leverage. If you take a look at the roadmap, that's really where, let me pull this down. If you take a look at the roadmap, it's being launched on the testnet, or the testnet launch is happening, and then the mainnet launch isn't supposed to happen until Q1 of 2018. So who knows what's going to happen right now with the price of Kyber. There was, obviously you can see that massive spike going up from $1 to $2.40 or plus, and now it's back down to below $2. I could see, who knows, but I've kind of seen this happen previously where there's a lot of excitement behind a project and then it slowly bleeds out, as there's not a lot. Like, if you're looking at the roadmap, there's really not a lot going on between now and Q1. And until Kyber Network actually launches their mainnet platform, there's not a lot of utility to Kyber Network besides speculation. So it's just something you want to consider. I'm positive on Kyber Network long term. I think they have a really interesting methodology and technology around how they're going to attack a decentralized exchange, because nobody's really done a great job yet of a decentralized exchange. EtherDelta is probably your best bet, but it still has its quirks and it still has its difficulties as far as EtherDelta goes. So that's kind of my thought process there on Kyber Network. Now, outside of that, guys, if you are new to the channel, I appreciate everybody kind of helping out and liking the video and spreading the love there. So much appreciated there as well. With that being said, I am, like I mentioned before, I'm actually going to Best Buy to pick up my DSLR camera that I'm going to use for my new video. So I'm super pumped about that. They actually open up at 10 o'clock, so I'm hoping if I leave now and I can get there in time, I'll be able my camera will be ready when I get there. So I'm going to go pick up that camera. I appreciate everybody's time. Again, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I do daily recorded videos on the subject of cryptocurrency, as well as these crypto happy hours, or this was really a breakfast. So I appreciate everybody's time and questions. If I couldn't get to yours, I really do apologize. Try to get to as many as possible, but it's tough. So I appreciate everybody's help and time here. And I will have a recorded video, hopefully with my new camera, if I could actually figure out how to get it to work in the next couple hours. So appreciate all your time, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Rob from Crypto Bobby signing out. Take it easy. Peace.